Next up, we have Mimica. I've just come to know Tuhin, who's the founder of Mimica, very recently. I'm quite jealous because he's in England right now, my hometown. I definitely miss it. I would be there if I could. But Mimica, they use AI to accelerate the deployment of robotic process automation. RPA is time consuming and it can be expensive to deploy, with companies spending 5 times as much on the expensive consultants who deploy the software as they do on the software licensing. And so Mimica cuts the man hours required to deploy RPA by 70%. So RPA teams can get 4 times as many bots into production each year. And they do this by recording employees on the computers and then using artificial intelligence to automatically generate kind of blueprints for bots. On average, Mimica users get 80 to 100 bots into production in the first year alone. Its technology has been used by both fledgling and mature RPA programs at companies like Citibank, Raymond James, and Dell. So Tuhin, I'll let you take it over from here.
Great. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Amit. So, can you guys see my slides okay?
Yeah, we can see them.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. My name's Tuhin Chakraborty. I'm the CEO of Mimica, where we accelerate the deployment of robotic process automation using artificial intelligence. We're kind of at a very exciting time in the company right now, an inflection point, you could say, where we've recently sold a number of enterprise license agreements to large enterprises. And I've picked a few from the different industries that we service today: manufacturing, financial services. Deutsche Bahn is a logistics company in Germany, transportation and logistics. So RPA is very time consuming and very expensive to deploy. That's probably the one thing that anybody that deploys RPA can agree on. Even Automation Hero referenced that in the talk previously. So it takes 16 to 20 weeks to get a bot into production. That means figuring out what to automate, understanding the process, spending time with the SME to document the process, and then turning that documentation into requirements for the developer. It's excruciatingly long and slow. So the purpose of Mimica is to automate this manual work that goes into the deployment of RPA. And that's what we've done. So with Mimica, we cut the time it takes to deploy RPA by 75%. And on average, with Mimica, it takes 6 weeks to get a bot into production, from the identification of the process to the development of the bot. So just to say that one more time, 16 to 20 weeks without Mimica, 6 weeks with Mimica. So what that means is, let's say you're planning to deploy 20 bots next year. With Mimica, you can deploy 80. And just to put a number on it, the incremental value of that, of deploying 80 bots next year instead of 20, is going to be about $7 million from 115,000 additional man hours saved. So this is possible because of the latest advances in natural language processing and computer vision, which is technology that we use to record what employees do on their computers and automatically generate blueprints for RPA. So we capture the process, and then the output of our software goes directly to an RPA developer who will build the automation click by click. You can also use Mimica to prioritize thousands of business processes to figure out where the highest ROI opportunities are. So you want to look at all your business processes and say, okay, of these 2,000 processes, these are the 200 that I want to focus on this year, and I'm going to build 50 this quarter, 50 the next quarter, and so on. So just to give an example, earlier this year, we analyzed a stock price research process for a major US bank. It's a relatively small process. They spend about $250,000 on it annually. And over 1 week, we recorded the process and captured basic things like volume, average handle time. But what's unique about Mimica is we can tell you what percentage of the process is automatable. We're the only company in the world that can do that. And that's a really critical metric to determine where you want to spend your time in terms of automation. And then once we get those metrics, of course, we generate a map of the process that contains everything in it needed for a developed automated RPA, the deployment of RPA. We've automated the manual work of figuring out what to automate and what the process looks like at a click and keystroke level. So every step in the Mimica map contains every click and keystroke, essentially a sequence of instructions for the developer to follow to build the bot. And it drastically reduces the time it takes to deploy RPA. So at this company, it took them 8 weeks on average to get a bot into production, which is actually quite fast. You know, many companies, it'll take longer than that. And the reason is they took some shortcuts. They weren't automating the entire process. With Mimica, they got the bot into production in 4 weeks. So it was a 50% reduction in the time it took to get the bot into production. And across their RPA program, that translates to 60 FTE additional savings in year one, which is about a $6.5 million value. We also increased their average FTE savings per bot from a quarter of an FTE to a little over one FTE. Just to say, Mimica anonymizes all recorded data, so no confidential or personally identifiable information is persisted. And we offer both cloud and on-premise deployments, and we're both GDPR and CCPA compliant. So the final question I would leave you with when you think about whether or not you want to try Mimica or learn about Mimica is, how many bots are you planning to deploy next year? And what would it mean if you could 3x or 4x that number? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tuhin. I think that was a great presentation. I mean, I love the kind of depiction of ROI. You know, I could definitely relate to it. For those of you that want to connect with Mimica, please mark it yes if you'd like to be connected with them, just as a reminder. Tuhin, quick question. You know, who's your primary customer? You know, are you intending for it to be used by companies who would then take it to the consultants, or you know, it sounds like, you know, or are you meant to take it to the, I guess, the bot developers, because, you know, they can use the code to develop bots. I guess who's the ideal customer here?
Yeah, so I would say we have maybe 3 categories of customers. So one are companies that are at the beginning of their RPA journey, and they're looking at next year and they're thinking, okay, I want to get, 20 bots into production. And then they see Mimica and they go, oh, wow, I can get way more than that. And I can make a lot, or I can save a lot more money for my business next year. The second category is those people that are more mature in RPA. So some of the people that I showed on the first slide, like Raymond James, Dell, they have big centers of excellence that have, they've already got hundreds of bots into production. So they're looking at their pipeline and saying, can we improve this pipeline? Can we get more out of our existing resources? And then the third category are sort of our channel partners or consulting companies who deploy a high volume of RPA. They're the ones that really kind of squeeze us a little bit because they want to take the value that we produce and be able to create that value for their end clients. But of course, that's it's a great way for us to go to market as well. So that's another path that we pursue.
Well, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I think someone said to me that within the RPA space, for every dollar that the RPA company gets, there's $2 to be made by the consultants. So I'll leave it to that.
Yeah, exactly.
But thanks a lot for your time, mate.